to change the constitution, immigration has already changed the country. For 20 years, Australia has led one of the largest migration programs in the world with a record 456,000 migrants arriving in Australia in the last financial year alone. Now, that number is actually a low estimate. Some estimates put it at 650,000, and it says here nearly 650,000 are predicted by next year. And the Intergenerational Report projects that Australia will add another 14.2 million migrants by 2062, which, as I said, is Perth, Brisbane, Melbourne, and Sydney doubled. The statistics are stunning.
Wow.
Nearly 30% of Australia's population is now foreign-born, while Greater Sydney and Melbourne now boast a foreign-born population of around 45%. According to data conducted by the New South Wales Parliament, some electorates of Sydney saw a 79% change in their foreign-born population. So that data, it goes off the kind of increase in percentage of persons born overseas from 2016 to 2021, so over a 5-year period in New South Wales. And you scroll through this, I'll just pull it up here so that people can see the data, because the data so I'll go on born overseas. So this is New South Wales electorates. So the blue is the percentage change over 5 years, and the orange is the total percentage. So we're scrolling through here, and we're seeing, look at all these, in 5 years, Badgerys Creek there was a 44.5% increase in foreign-born population in 5 years. Camden, Southwest Sydney, 51.5% increase. Cessnock, which is, that's up near Newcastle, 34.7% increase in overseas-born people. Look at this, Hawkesbury, 58.1% increase. Kellyville, 51.2% increase. Now it's 42.6% overseas born. That area, that's near where I grew up. That area, when I was growing up, it was a white area, 15 years ago. There was some Asians and stuff, but it was pretty much a white area. Now you go there and it's just Asians and Indians.
That would really break my heart, man. Like, my area I grew up in is still predominantly white. That's Frankston, southeast of Melbourne. Frankston, actually. Yeah, it's still the same. It's much the same as I remember it. It's a bit more built up, and there's more people here than there was when I was young, but most of them are still white. If I saw the area,
white flat area, it has a bunch of white people that moved there from other parts of Melbourne that have been filled up.
Exactly. I was lucky enough that, the area I grew up in and have remained in has stayed majority white. But yeah, I've got to say, I'm a real homebody. Like, I love where I grew up and I love my roots. And if I saw that place change, that would be really heartbreaking. So yeah, it's just my personal feeling.
Yeah, but these statistics, what he's referencing there was Londonderry, which is in kind of far western Sydney. 79.1% increase in overseas born people in 5 years. Now it's a third overseas born. It's just incredible, some of the data here. And almost no towns are getting more Australian. The only towns, and they should, in theory, right? In theory, if you had a country that wasn't ridiculous and we weren't genociding the people who are from Australia, there would be over time a lot of areas would be becoming more Australian, because the immigrants would have children who would be born in Australia, and they would start to populate that area and give it a character. So people come over from England, a few generations ago, and then all their kids are Australians and so on, and everywhere gets more and more Australian over time. No, the opposite. The only areas that are getting more Australian are the inner city areas like Newtown, which is a kind of leftist area full of Antifa and so on. Sydney City itself, the North Shore, which is, full of rich people, basically. And Wollongong, slightly more Australian, which is, down the coast. So the really kind of nice areas, and the kind of inner city kind of hipster areas and so on, they're the areas that are getting wider, getting more Australian. Everywhere else is getting less Australian in all of Sydney. And some areas are getting rapidly less Australian at incredible speeds.
Yeah, it seems to pick up as the longer it all the projected demographic outcomes that say, oh, you know, by 2050 and by 2060, white people will be in a minority. I think you'll find it will happen much sooner than that. This is the kind of thing that accelerates as it continues to transpire. Like the more immigrants come in, the faster things change, and then the more immigrants start to pile in on top of that. You have to understand that white people are a global minority, right? There's not many of us in the world compared to other races, right? We are a global minority. There's fewer of us than there are of people who are non-white, and they will swamp white nations. They already are. The process has begun and it's well underway. And as I said, there's an acceleration thing going on there. Like the more it happens, the more it will continue to compound and happen faster and faster.
I thought this passage was really good from the article. Many will argue that having a majority foreign born population is not necessarily a bad thing, but nobody to date has bothered to argue why exactly it's a good thing either. The question of how does this policy outcome benefit Australians was never really answered. It just kind of happened. That a single word of discussion, as if it were an act of nature, not a direct result of government policy. The only words ever spoken about the matter are those from people like Immigration Minister Andrew Giles, who kept repeating the same old mantra of our times that, quote, diversity is our greatest strength. I saw actually on Twitter there was a leftist politician, Jeremy Corbyn, I think, from I can't remember exactly what part of England he's from, but whatever the name of the town that he was describing, he was saying, you know, diversity is great for England, and I live in one of the most diverse areas in England, and it's brilliant. And Keith Woods quote tweeted him with the statistics showing like that the more diverse it's getting, like the crime rate is spiking to one of the highest,
Knife
it's like
crime,
the fastest
especially.
spiking crime rate in England. It's like, oh yeah, it seems like really good diversity you're enjoying out there. But yeah, as it says here, entire suburbs and cities of Australia have now had their composition radically changed. Uh, Yet it's deeply unfashionable to discuss such changes unless, of course, you're promoting it. Um, you know, in which case, then it's a great strength for our society because more diversity is so wonderful that we've got all these Indians and Asians in Australia now. And this is apparently great for us because, by implication, white people are disgusting and need to die off already, basically. Because anywhere where there's too many white people, then it's not vibrant enough. It's not. It's not.
It
It
really
needs to
is
be
a,
strengthened
it really is a
with
hatred. It
kebab
really is a
shops.
it's a deep, brooding hatred for white people that drives all of these multicultural agendas. They pretend it's about helping people. They pretend it's about harmony and peace. It is fundamentally a brooding hatred for whites, for white children, for white families, just for white people and white culture. Like that's just a given around the world. It's like this disease. It's like a psychological disease suffered by first the Jews and then everyone who the Jews influence, which is as many people as possible, right? It's like the tentacles of this hatred pass through the bowels of so many people throughout the West, and that's what drives support for multiculturalism. That's what drives hatred for people like us, people who actually don't despise their own race. It's anti-white racism. When are we going to Agartha? When are we all? Uh, when are we abandoning this shitfest multicultural thing and just going into the inner earth and going to Agartha? Does anyone know about that? Can anyone confirm whether that's legit? I'm almost willing to put like an expedition together and sail down to Antarctica, see if I can find the entrance to the inner earth and visit Agartha. If anyone's willing to join me, let me know because I'll put my resources towards that. I'm ready to bail, man.
It says here